This video is answering a question that we've had through the website, and the question is, can I develop ear play, which is the course on playing by ear, without having a good ear? So can I develop ear play without having a good ear? So for those that don't know, ear play is the course which teaches you how to play by ear, and that means that you can hear a tune and you know how to play it. So the early stages of that are that you can work out a tune, so you don't need a chord sheet or you don't need notation. And then as you practice that, it can become instant, so then you can hear a tune and you instantly know how to play it without having to have worked it out on a keyboard. So that's really useful. That's one of my favorite things to do at a party, where people come around the piano and they want to sing song. So I just ask them what their favorite song is and they shout it out. If I've ever heard that song, if I can just think of how the tune goes, then I can play it. And I can do that in a couple of seconds. I can scan the tune. And so I can also, as I'm starting the tune, if I think, well, how does that midsection go? I can't quite. So as I'm playing the, say, the verse and the chorus, I can be thinking ahead and going, oh yeah, that's it, yeah. And often if you start a song, all I generally need is the first line, because I've got a really, really bad memory for lyrics and even melodies, as daft as it sounds. Whereas if a person just says the first few words of the tune or just hums the first line, then, oh yeah, it all comes flooding back because I've heard it on the radio or something, it's somewhere in the back of my head. So that's what ear play is the ability to identify the building blocks of the music, which is chords and melody, without having to have it written down for you, which for me is that is the secret to piano freedom. So back to the question, can I develop ear play without having a good ear? Now, this is interesting because obviously the question then is coming from the point of view of the person who thinks they don't have a good ear. And I would question that, because how do you know? I think most people have not a clue what their own abilities are because it's never been tested and it's never been explained to them. I mean, I didn't know. All the time I played for years and years and years, I played piano. I didn't know that I would be able to do what I now can do. And nobody ever told me I could or explained it to me, other than I had a bit of formal classical training, but it wasn't really anything to do with the playing by ear that I use now for pop music or at parties. So that's the first thing. I would say that people vastly underestimate their own natural musical ability. And most of us have been listening to music since we were born. You're hearing it around you, on the radio and in cars and houses. And so we're absorbing that information. And most Western music is built upon very, very simple patterns. And so even though you don't know it, your ear is hearing those patterns and it recognizes them without knowing it. Because how I can explain that to you is, you certainly know when something breaks the pattern. So if you're not used to hearing jazz and you hear some really off the wall jazz that doesn't seem to have any, it's like just people just making up notes as they go. That's not what's happening, I know, but it might sound like they're just making it all up and it's all discordant and sounds really weird. Well, that's because it's breaking the normal patterns of what you're used to hearing. It's the same with atonal classical music, and if it's atonal, it sounds weird, and most people really struggle to listen to that because it doesn't fit the standard patterns. So you'd be amazed to know that most pop songs only source their chords, and the chords are the building blocks of the song, from about 6 chords, and the same 6 chords can play the vast majority of any popular song written. So once you know that, oh, is that all I'm looking for? Usually, there's a few exceptions, but usually you're only looking for up to 6 things. And lots of songs don't even use the full 6, they might use 4 of them. So there's some great stuff out there. There's the Axis of Awesome video on YouTube. It's brilliant, that shows dozens and dozens of the most famous songs from the biggest artists that are using the same 4 chords in the same order. That's how simple the building blocks are. So once you get that, and then you learn how to improvise and use and play the chords in a professional way, it sounds brilliant, but your brain's only thinking of incredibly simple things. So most of it is just being shown what to look for, and also having the belief that you are capable of doing it in the first place, so that you will put in some effort in learning the skill. So it is a skill, but it's very teachable, it's very learnable, and it's not rocket science. So what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for these chordal patterns and then patterns of the melody. So there's only 2 basic things that you're looking for. And the melody is the tune that a person is singing, and that is usually sourced from only 7 notes. And the chords are sourced usually from only 6 chords. So there's not a lot of stuff to be looking for. And then inside that, there's a lot of patterns. So 3 of the chords are major, which can sound happy, and 3 of the chords are minor, which can sound sad. So once you know, again, you're looking for that. And then there's a few other tips and tricks. So even if you have to choose, often you've got a 50% chance of being right. Well, that's not too bad when you're starting off. And then you train your ear to actually then identify, which of the 2 options is it? And then there's a lot of patterns in songs that use the same type of movement from one to another. So if that chord is there, you can anticipate it's probably going to be this chord next. So yeah, just knowing what these patterns are is one of the main things that it's rarely ever pointed out. The next thing then is to do exercises to train your ear. So once you are shown the patterns and explain what they are, then you can acquire that skill. So what can also help is, before you get to the ear training part in a formal course like ear play, if you've done already a course, say if you're learning piano, the fastest way that I can teach people is by using a numbers method. Now the numbers method, it's incredibly quick, but why I developed that is because it works backwards from how I play by ear, because what I'm hearing is so incredibly simple that is the method that then I devised a way of writing down that. So if you start off learning something like fast play or sing play styles that use the numbers, you already then understand and are hearing how the building blocks are made up, and then it's an easier step to go from that through to ear play. If you haven't learned that way, if you've learned by the letters or the notation, like chord letters or reading the dots for notation, it's still very learnable. It's just that the numbers help you do it quicker. So there you are. So I'm questioning whether you already have a good ear or not, and encouraging you that you almost certainly can learn. So there you go.